Hi there, this is Sherry from Life Plan, and I am here today with Serena Dyksen. And I am so excited to be able to interview her today and to be able to introduce her to all of you. Let me just read a little bit of her biography so you can see where she's coming from. Serena is a women's ministry leader and the founder of She Found His Grace Ministry, a post-abortive healing ministry. She's also the author of the book, She Found His Grace, which is coming out in October, which is her story on how she found hope, healing, and forgiveness after abortion and sexual assault. She has a heart and a mission to see women walk in freedom after abortion, to see the family healed, marriages restored, and a church on fire for the unborn. Serena has served on the board of Teen and Adult Challenge for 7 years. She's traveled to many cities to share the gospel on the streets. She was a foster mom and has walked alongside many women with addictions and past abortions. She's also a trained sidewalk counselor who goes to the front lines of abortion clinics to pray and to offer women in crisis hope and resources to choose life. She's been married to her high school sweetheart for 27 years. She has 2 adult married children. She's a nana and has another on the way. Congratulations. Serena is blessed to see God restore her family after she was sexually assaulted at the age of 13 and taken for abortion. There's been many broken pieces, but she shares how she found God's grace, love, and freedom, and how she was lavished in his love after 30 years of sitting in a church pew broken. Wow, what an incredible testimony. I'm excited to hear more about that testimony today. But first, before we go into that, I just want to share also our part of the God story in this, and that's how we got connected.
I know.
It's kind of it's a little, I think it's a funny story. So we had a booth at the Faith and Family Day in Buchanan, Michigan. And I was at the booth. It was towards the end of the time. And this lady I'd never met before came up to me. She was looking for someone else. She wasn't even there as part of the Faith and Family Day. And she saw our booth and she said, tell me a little bit about what you do. And as I explained to her about Life Plan, she said, oh, I have a friend that you need to meet. And then she proceeds to call Serena on the phone and hand the phone to me and say, I want you to meet Serena. So we met on the phone that day. And then we connected through email and Facebook, became friends on Facebook. And then you brought a group here, I believe, last summer to do some community work at Life Plan. And now we're talking to you and hearing about your story. So Serena, thank you so much for being here with us today. And would you just jump right in and tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, so I just want to say thank you guys, because just bringing a team from YWAM to serve at Life Plan was just such a blessing to all of us, because we just see how you guys love well in the community. And we were just excited to see how you walk alongside women, families, and you're offering all sorts of pieces to the puzzle to help them succeed as a family unit, which is so important. So we were just so blessed by you guys. So thank you for having us. So
we were blessed by you too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So here's my story. My story started when I was 13 years old. I had been sexually assaulted by an uncle, and our family was in complete crisis, and we were looking for help. And we went to our family doctor, and our family doctor, my mom was just devastated over what had happened to our family. And the family doctor, confirmed that I had a pregnancy. I had never heard the word abortion until that day. I had no idea what that was. Wow. And so our family doctor said, why don't you guys have an abortion? And so that seemed like, for my parents at the time, a solution to what a problem, I guess, they were just looking for help. And so we left our family doctor's office, and we were set up for an appointment at the Women's Pavilion in South Bend, Indiana, George Crawford's office. And before we even went to that clinic, I remember them just saying, the people outside the clinic hate you, so make sure you walk in quickly. And I remember as a 13-year-old not really understanding what that meant, but all I knew was our family was falling apart. We had a lot of stress, we had a lot of trauma, and I wanted to avoid that. Like, I had enough stress. And so I wanted to avoid people out that would hate us. I didn't understand why people would hate us.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, I just remember my mom responding in a way of anger, of like, she would put them in their place. Like, she really was like, I don't want to hear it from them. And I just remember that whole conversation back and forth between my parents. And so when we got to the clinic, I was separated from my parents as a 13-year-old. And, looking back, I know that they did that on purpose so my parents wouldn't change their mind. That's exactly what they did. I don't, what I remember about the conversation was just this lady saying, it's just a clump of cells. And so when she asked if I was ready for this procedure, I thought I was at a doctor's office. So I was like, I'm at a doctor's office. They're here to help, and I should trust them. Why shouldn't I trust them? And the first time getting into the exam, room, examining room, I remember thinking as a 13-year-old, this place is filthy. I couldn't believe that it was so dirty.
Wow.
And I just, as I've thought of that part of the story, I'm like, 13 years old to realize that something was dirty. And so George came into the room, and he just smiled at me, said, this won't take long. And what happened next was so traumatic. He yelled at me to shut up. Later, my mom would share the story. I found her journal actually that said that she could hear me screaming, but they wouldn't allow her to come back and help.
Wow.
And when the procedure was done, I was put in an open room. There were other women there, and we didn't say a word to each other. We just, there were vinyl recliners that they put us in. And I don't remember how long I was there, but when it was time to go, I hemorrhaged everywhere, and George never checked on me. They just sent me out the door. And that day changed our lives forever. My mom, she ended up having a mental breakdown, and eventually my dad would leave our family. And years later, I would have my own struggles from that day. And, something that was supposed to help us, it destroyed our family. So when I was 16, I ended up pregnant again, and we had Planned Parenthood come into our school, which they really groom students. And so we were facing what we didn't know at the time, an unplanned pregnancy, but we knew that Planned Parenthood had come into our school and they would help us. That's what we thought. They're going to help us. And so we went to Planned Parenthood, and of course they confirmed a pregnancy, and they told us, well, you're in school, you're poor, you should abort your baby. That was kind of the line that they gave us. And we went into, we left there and went into the parking lot, and my now husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, he had grown up in a Christian family, but they never talked about abortion. And he looked at me and he said, what do you think about aborting this baby? And that was the first time I shared my rape and my abortion with him. And he just looked at me as this high school teenager, and he said, well, I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll figure it out. And so we chose life that day. And we were blessed to have his parents surround us with a lot of love and support. We had a youth group that threw us a baby shower. And so, we just felt really loved by the church. And with that being said, they also had some really tough conversations with us about not continuing to have sex and what that looked like, and what do you guys think about marriage? And they really talked about those things that needed to be talked about with us. And so we ended up getting married in June of '93. We got married at 10 o'clock in the morning, and Bruce graduated high school at 7 o'clock that night.
Wow. What a day.
Which we don't recommend it, but we were young and we were trying to be considerate of everybody else, you know. So we had my husband's he has family out of state, and so they were coming in for graduation, and so we thought, well, that makes sense. We don't recommend it. So we had a healthy baby girl in March, and he graduated high school, and then I would also finish high school half a year early, and we ended up having a healthy son, and by the age of 23 we had bought our first house. We thought, we're doing great, like we have beat the odds, like this is what we're thinking, right? And at 25 I had a miscarriage, and it really started to make me spin out of control, and it was a loss, like the loss of a baby, but it was compiled by the other loss, but I didn't associate that loss. As crazy as that sounds, that wasn't something that was registering with me of why it was a double dose of loss for me. And so a couple of years later, I ended up having an ovary rupture, and I almost lost my life, and it was just another layer of trauma in our lives. And by the time I was 30, I had to have a complete hysterectomy. And we never tied it back to the abortion. We never did. And no one asked. The doctors never asked, and I never shared that information. It was just something we didn't talk about. So when we continued on with life, and we were struggling just one thing after another, and my kids hit middle school, and we were faced with another family trauma, and it became clear that I had not healed from my assault and my abortion. And I began drinking every day. I started using drugs. Our family was falling apart. I had moved out of the house, and I was out of control because of my wounds, and I didn't know how to process that. And one night, after a heavy night of drinking, I started texting people to come get me, because that's what I did. It was funny at first, and at this point it was no longer funny. People were tired of me reaching out. They were tired of my brokenness, but I didn't realize just how broken I was. And pretty much everybody was like, sorry, we're kind of done with this, like figure it out. And I got in my car that night, and I just started praying and began weeping. And I was like, God, I have nothing but you. And he met me in my car that night, and he lavished me in a love that I had never felt in my life. And I knew that I needed to go home to my family. And by God's grace, I made it home. And my husband met me at the door, and he welcomed me in, and we began the healing process. And it was painful. It was hard. There were many times I would show up at the counselor's office, and I didn't want to go in. Just wanted to leave. And I would have to go in. And I'm pretty sure we laugh about it now. My counselor will joke about it now that I was probably one of the most difficult people that he had to work with, just because I would go in there and just be like this pouty little child, because I didn't want to work through the stuff. And finally, having that breakthrough of, this is good. This is a good healing that I need. And so I did the counseling, but I was still drinking. I was still drinking every single day. And I was in my living room one day, and God met me in Lamentations 3:58. And, we're just having this conversation of, didn't I meet you in the pit? Didn't I pull you out of the pit? And I'm like, yes, God, you did. He's like, didn't I take up your case? Yes. And, didn't I redeem your life? Well, yeah, you did. And, he just asked me to to lay down my unforgiveness. That was a key part. I didn't forgive. I had not forgiven my abuser. I had not forgiven some other people in my life that I needed to forgive. And I needed to surrender that. And so I laid that at the foot of the cross. And that was the day that God took away my drinking. And I never used drugs, or I did not pick up the wine bottle ever again. That day I had went into my kitchen to pick up the wine bottle that I had used every single day, and I couldn't pick it up. It was done. He had just set me free from that.
Wow.
And so we just began, just really walking out ministry with people and sharing our story. But I never talked about my abortion. That was like a part that I never talked about. And so a friend had invited me to watch the movie Unplanned, and I had no idea what it was. I feel like that's been the journey all along of not knowing, not knowing things. So I went to Unplanned, and I'm sitting in the movie theater, and I'm like, this is my life. Mm-hmm. And I felt like the Holy Spirit said, now's the time to tell the rest of your story.
Wow.
And I didn't know what that looked like. I had no idea. And I reached out to Right to Life in St. Joe County. Mm-hmm. I had no clue what they were about. They have a nice name. So I shared my story, and I found out later that they went to their board meeting and they said, is she for real? Is this story for real? Is she healed? Like, what in the world? And my question that I had for them was, do you guys ever go to the abortion clinic to try to talk to women and just minister to women? That was my question. And they're like, actually, we have an unlicensed abortion clinic, and we have sidewalk training, and we would love for you to come for the sidewalk training. And so I began sidewalk counseling at the abortion clinic, and God has continued to just open door after door after door since I walked in obedience. I laugh because I said, God, I'll do anything you ask me to do because you've saved me and you've redeemed me, but don't ask me to speak. And what does he have me doing? Oh, he has me as a speaker.
Yeah. Yes.
So
funny.
Yes.
God likes to do that to us. Oh, you said you don't want to do that. Well, I've got other plans for you.
I have other plans for you. So yeah.
You. Yeah. Wow. What an amazing, amazing testimony that you have, and so many opportunities you've had to share it in so many places, which is incredible. I know God just opened doors for you all over the place. But talk a little bit more about the sidewalk counseling that you do. What are some of the things that you do as sidewalk counseling? What are some experiences you've had? Just share a little bit more about that.
Yes. So sidewalk counseling, there is an amazing training that everybody should go through when they decide that they're going to go to the abortion clinic, because there really is a way to reach the women in a way that probably is not the best way to be at the abortion clinic. And so we go and we pray, and we're just really there to offer them hope and resources so that they know that abortion is not their only option. And we are a peaceful presence. We don't yell. We're not protesters. I hear a lot of post-abortive women say the protesters. Well, we do have protesters at the clinic, and I think a lot of people don't understand all of the pieces of the puzzle in front of the abortion clinic. We have our peaceful sidewalk counselors that are there to pray. We do have protesters, and we also have escorts that take the women into the clinic. And so we just really want to be there and offer them hope and resources. And I've found for myself, I don't ever want to raise my voice when I'm there, because I think of my own story of how my mom would have responded. And so I don't want the women to run into the clinic. And we've actually seen women run into the clinic when people are using megaphones, or if they're shouting. It's just not very effective. And so we want to avoid that. I really felt like the Lord's asked me to set myself apart from that. And so I avoid that, and just really being prayed up and being obedient to where the Lord wants you to be at the clinic has has time and time again been just beautiful moments of where God has just opened the doors to speak to women because of obedience, of where he even wants you to stand at the clinic. So yeah, so it's just been beautiful. Some of the stories that I can share in front of the clinic, we've actually had dad stop and want more information for the women. Something that I see often is fathers who don't want to actually have an abortion. They don't want her to abort, but they have heard society say her body, her choice. And there's definitely a breakdown of the family as far as men feeling like they should not be able to lead their families because of that lie. And so I see fathers pull back and not lead. And really what I know about women, post-abortive women, they're just waiting for him to lead her. And so women need to know that they're just waiting for him to say, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this and we'll figure it out. And so it's just this distorted lie that the enemy has used to break down the family. We did have an incident where we had a Black father who didn't know that his Whole Women's Health was an abortion clinic, and so he was completely devastated once he figured out why they were there. And the clinic actually called the cops on him.
Wow.
And this father came over and threw down his keys, and he was like, they called the cops. Great. You know what that means, and it was in the middle of all the unrest that we've had here lately. And the police did come, and they gave him a drink, and they loved him well, but he ended up leaving because he really didn't have a voice in protecting his child. And so that has been heartbreaking to see. Another thing that I've seen is that the escorts will boss the women around, and they feel like they can't say no. And so there's been times where women will look over and look like they want to come over, and the escorts will block them with their umbrellas and tell them to get in the car. And later the women, we've heard stories of the ladies saying, I really just wanted to come over and talk with you guys, but I didn't think I had a choice. And so that's really heartbreaking when women don't feel like they have a voice to choose life. And so, it's just so important for us to have these conversations so that women hear these stories of what's happening at the clinic, and so they can break free and just know, hey, I can go over and talk to them. I do have that choice and freedom.
Right. Yeah. So much brokenness really is what I'm sure you see. We see that a lot too. And people thinking that they don't have any other choice. I think back to your own story and how, you guys were just looking for help, and it seemed like they were offering you help. You didn't even know there were other options out there really at that point. Yeah. So yeah, it's so much. So describe a little bit more so that the people that are watching this can get an idea of what is going through a woman's mind when she's planning on having an abortion or going to the abortion clinic.
So a lot of women, they are, they're panicked. They think, I don't have money. My partner, I see a lot of women really looking for their identity in their boyfriend or husband. And when the husband doesn't respond the way that they think, they will they'll walk in rejection. And so they're just so hurt and wounded. So in their minds, I'm just going to abort the baby then because of the rejection that they're feeling. It's a lot of just a deceit, a lot of lies that they believe. They feel like they're stuck. There's no other way. And that a 10-minute procedure is going to fix the situation, but not realize the effects afterwards. And it's just so heartbreaking sometimes when you talk to women and you share all of these things and they still make that choice. And that's difficult to walk through, and we still love them and we want to get them healing. But what a joy it is to have a mother that is like, okay, I needed to just hear that you were going to support me. And that's the beautiful part of talking to women. I had a conversation last night with a young lady that's just, walking through being scared, and she has 4 children, and she just felt like, I can't feed another mouth, I can't do that. And just like, okay, well, let's help you get the resources you need. Let's help you get connected with people in your community so that you feel supported, you feel loved. And just sharing my story as well, with her, and her saying, okay, let's do this, and linking arms with her to choose life. And that's really what they're looking for.
Yeah, that's just so fabulous. And I think about, what you said earlier about just loving them and being a peaceful presence and praying.
Yes.
And just so much, a lot of people think pro-life, and they do think the protests, and they think,
Yeah.
The yelling and all that, but that's not
Yeah.
what it is. And it's not what you're about. That's not what we're about. We're about
No.
loving the woman
Yeah.
and the man, and helping them even if they make the choice that is a hurtful choice, not the choice we want them to make. So talk a little bit about the post-abortive women, because I know there's probably people who are watching this right now who have had an abortion and haven't dealt with that. What would you say to them?
Yeah, so for the women, there's so many women that reach out who are post-abortive, and they are hurting. They're so hurting, and they feel, some of them don't even know that there's post-abortive healing available. They have no idea. I know for myself, I had no idea. Like, I had gone through counseling, but I did not know about the post-abortive healing part of it. And so when someone actually asked me, and I felt like I was in a good place when women started asking me, in fact, I kind of did an eye roll. But my policy is with women's ministry is that I'm not going to ask someone to do something I'm not willing to do myself. And I wanted to know where these women were going to go. I wanted to experience that. And so I agreed to go. And it was just this beautiful balm that Jesus put on my heart for healing, and even deeper, took that healing even deeper, that counseling, regular counseling, Christian counseling could not do. And so for women that are sitting in the churches and in the community that are really hurting, to just take that step. A lot of women will say, well, I don't want to just sit in that story. I don't want to be shamed. And that's not what it's about. It is about the freedom that you get, that forgiveness that you get. And, you don't sit in it, you walk. It's to help you move to your healing process and really get that freedom. And so something that I've noticed is the churches are not always so great about talking about the post-abortive healing. And that's really difficult, because so many women come to me and they're just like, I feel like it's a sin. It's so bad that the church is not willing to talk about it. It's the sin that the church doesn't want to talk about. It's so bad. Or that they say they believe, because they don't talk about it, that it must be okay to go do. And we have to get away from that. It's not helpful to the women in our churches. It's not helpful to the families in our churches. So we need to really have these conversations, and it can be done in a way that's filled with love and grace and mercy, and we don't have to shy away from it.
Absolutely. I love how you even said that in your own story, that your church, they came with you, they threw you a baby shower, and they supported you, but they also had those tough conversations with you and showed you, there's a better way. So that's exactly what we need to be doing, showing his grace to those women as well. Yeah. Wow. What a great message. So speak now to the people who are watching this and saying, wow, I want to be that person to help those women who are considering abortion or who've had an abortion. What would you say to them? How can the average everyday person get involved and help a person who is contemplating abortion?
So a big part.
What are your to do? Yes, you should do it, and definitely don't do this.
So the person that wants to get involved, I definitely recommend, like, if someone wants to go to the abortion clinic to try to reach the women, to go through sidewalk counseling, call your local Right to Life, call Sidewalk Advocates for Life. That is an excellent training, because there's definitely a way to do it and a way to not do it. Um, have people in your church to speak on how to navigate through this ministry to help, because I think sometimes we just don't know how to navigate. And so bring people in. We bring people in for everything else. So why not why not bring in people, post-abortive women that are healed? And that's the key word, healed.
Mm-hmm.
They're excellent, and they have such a heart, and they know how to talk in congregations. They know how to help pastors navigate through that. And so, you just want to be really careful. Screen the people that you bring in to make sure that if they're post-aborted, they're healed, or that they're not part of a radical group that will cause more damage than good. So we want to make sure of that. Start ministries in churches so that young moms know that they're supported, that they're not going to be gossiped about, that they're going to be loved, and that you're going to walk alongside of them. And also support pregnancy crisis centers. Like, support them. You guys do such great work. And I know for myself, I didn't even really realize any of that until, like, God called me into this ministry. And so we need to, people need to be aware of those resources in our community as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great things. And
Yes.
I love putting in there. We definitely, if you want to get involved in other ways besides sidewalk counseling, give us a call at Life Plan, because we work with these women all the time and would love to have you.
Absolutely.
So, talk a little bit about your upcoming book. Releases in October.
Yes.
So that's got to be super exciting for you. How can people get a copy of that, and why should they get a copy of that? I can give them lots of reasons why they should, but what would you say?
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I have a book coming out in October, which is so crazy. And it's been another journey that God has taken us on. And I just have to share this little tidbit of just another way God's just opened the door, and how we feel that God's speaking to us about my book. So a lady reached out that I have never talked to before, and she said, we're located in one of the areas that George had a clinic, and we would love for you to come and do a book signing, which still cracks me up, but God has opened this up, and we're like, okay. And we prayed about it, and we felt like the Lord said, I want you to go and take back the land that the enemy tried to steal. And so the plan is to go to each area that he had a clinic, which is Gary, Fort Wayne, South Bend, and also his hometown. And we're going to go to those areas and take back the land.
Wow.
And it's really, my story is really sharing that hope and healing. And, so many women think that they can't be forgiven, or they can't give forgiveness. And man, when we can get to a place of being able to forgive and be forgiven, and allow God to just give us that grace and love and mercy, oh, there's so much freedom in that. And it not only heals our hearts and our relationship with him, but it also restores families, and how it just, the reach with that. And that's really our story of how God not only met me, but he also restored our whole family and redeemed our family. And that's really where our heart is with our story, to give hope and healing.
Wonderful. Now people can pre-order a copy of your book, correct?
They can go on Amazon or christianbooks.com. And also they can go, I have a Facebook page, She Found His Grace Ministry, which they can go on. You can find me at serenadyksen.com. And get connected that way. Send me messages. I love chatting with people. I love connecting with people. I love loving on God's kids well. So send me a message. I love it.
Very good. So what would be the biggest thing that you hope people take away from this time right now, from this interview?
For us, we just have a heart to see women restored and redeemed, and know that their Heavenly Father loves them after abortion, that He wants to love them. He wants to lavish them in love, and that we don't have to continue to run away from Him. He wants us to call out to Him, and we really want to see families restored, and we want churches to know what an impact they can make on abortion and ending abortion. It is not a political issue. This is a heart transformation issue.
Absolutely.
And man, we get a heart transformed, and we get that love and that mercy and that grace and forgiveness. Oh, that will change a whole generation. And so that's really our hearts. That's really what we want people to know. We want people to know that we are willing to come into churches. We're willing to go wherever we're invited, we go. And that's just what we do. Sometimes we just, things come up, and we're just, God has made it flexible for us to be able to just go right now. And so that's really our heart. And that freedom and love. And so invite us, have us in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Serena, for talking with us today. This has been such an encouragement, I know, to me, and I'm sure to the people who are watching. And just to see you share your story, and to see how God is using you, and how God can use all of us.
Yes.
We all have a story, and we all, when we experience God's grace, we need to share that.
Yes, absolutely. Just, someone needs to hear that. Someone. And I know, even if, someone's not in the church, they need that hope, and just taking that time to stop and see people, just see them the way our Heavenly Father sees them. And, abortion affects so many people that there's always a root. And when you start unpeeling those layers and the root issues, and just sharing that love, so many people respond so well to that. And they're really waiting for us to do it. They're waiting for us to share. And I know some people are like, I don't know how to do that, but just share your story, share that in a way that is loving and meets them where they're at. And you'll just see God show up and show off.
Love that. See God show up and show off. Just share your story, which is exactly what you are doing. And it's so fabulous that you shared your story with us today. Thank you. Thank you to all of you who joined us for this interview today. And if you want to get a hold of Serena, you can also get a hold of us, and we can connect you at lifeplan.org. 269-684-6200 will get you somebody that can talk with you a bit more about that as well. And also, if you are a person who needs help, who is post-abortive, we do offer those services at LifePlan as well, and we can come alongside and help you there. So give us a call. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day, everybody.
All right. Thank you.